Alright, so listen. First of all, man, it's good to see all you beautiful people in here, man. Let's talk some, man. Top of the year, man. We tapped in. Beautiful blessings to everybody that's out there, man. Listen, it's the top of the year. I take this first week, and I really was trying not to do much, but the meetings, they've been coming in daily, and that's really a lesson, though. You know, all last year, that's why you got to be careful of trying to look at the first as a reset, because it's not. The first is just part of this cycle, right? And what you go through in January is really, connected to everything you did all year long, right? So you got January from December, everything that you was doing this whole entire year. Then January comes and you feel like it's a reset. No, you still got meetings to keep up with. You still got progress to keep up with. You still got deadlines to meet, right? You still got meetings to get to. You still got all of these different things. So the only way that your life can be set for next January 2024, you understand me, is based on everything that you do every single day. You did. So this is a time from January to February is to set financial goals, set credit goals, business goals, right? Set a trust structures, business partners, new people you want to add on to the team, assistants, right? Like so many different things. So I think it's a delusional attitude that the world gets, that January 1st is a refresh and it's a restart, and it's not. January 1st is a continuation. That's all it is, right? It's a continuation of this winter cycle we going through. It's a continuation of everything that you built. Now, what I need y'all to understand is this, something that I write in my book is about that future self quality, right? When you got a future self, your future self is based on everything your past self has done, right? So everything you did last year, you got 365 days. You understand me? 365 days. And the money that you have in your bank account, or the money that you don't have, or the problems that you have, is because of the way you spent your money all 2022, the way you invested your money all 2022, that research that you didn't do, that investment that you didn't make, right? That step that you didn't take. So now we at this point where, we in 2023 and people are looking at it, their financial situation, their emotional situation, their spiritual, their relationships and their network, and they're looking at the lack that's there, or some people looking at the abundance. So some people have a lot to be grateful for because they say, damn, I took care of business every single day last year. And then there's other people that's like, man, I need to get to business because I didn't take care of business last year. So you don't have anybody to blame. You don't have, the world to blame, the government to blame. You don't have none of those things because for a fact you could have shown up every single day, right? So there's a lot of people that's going to ignore the progress of, let me get into some coaching situation. I seen people, man, I had a bad business situation before. I took on the wrong partners in the first generation of the BWO, right? And I remember doing that progress and during that situation, I could have came out and I could have complained to the world about it. I could have said, damn, man, I done lost hundreds of thousands of dollars these guys and I did this, that, and the third. But instead, I said, okay, what is my part to play in the situation? What didn't I see? What did I ignore? What accountability that I didn't take during that situation? And instead, in the middle of, what could have been a detrimental time in life, I turned it into a positive to start rebuilding. You understand me? So we built out things, right, like infinite wealth strategies that help people, catapult themselves up to the next levels. And what I'm telling you that story for is that some of you all may be relishing in your losses. Some of you all may be relishing in your lessons instead of learning from them and continuing to move. And the anxiety that you may get, the stress that you may get, whatever that comes along with it, that's just part of the process. And it's one of those things that when you look at the winners in life, when you look at the people that get championships, when you look at the people that get rings, they're able to go through more of that process than everybody else. And matter of fact, they take themselves through that process on purpose. They said, Kobe, the Mamba mentality said, you know what? I'm going to go work out more than everybody else, which means I want more pain. I want more stress. I'm going to build a more tolerance than everybody else. I'm going to build myself, even though this is not easy work. And I think that some people think that, you know, you want the work that requires the effort of consistency. You want the work that requires the effort of accountability. You want the work that requires you to be able to have emotional resilience and go through physical resistance and pain, but you want the results from it, but you don't want to go through the process of it. So the most dangerous thing is to have a mind that want results that it's not prepared to do the work for. Right? So I just want to say that one more time for you. The most dangerous thing is a person that has poor habits, a poor mindset, but they want $1 million. You're right? The most dangerous thing is a person that has no willingness to put any intellectual effort towards bringing out their reality, but they want to be driving a Lambo truck. You're right? The most dangerous thing of a person, they want to be in a better relationship, but they don't want to change anything about themselves to produce better relationships. So it's delusional to want things that you don't prepare yourself for, because you have to become that person for that. When you go get any job in America, they got to take you through training. They don't just say, okay, start. No, you got to train to become the person that's qualified for that position. And so in life, there's a lot of people that want jobs, right? They want things that they don't take themselves through that training and that qualification process before they can achieve it. You know what I'm saying? So the job training field is not a bad field, right? Like, I fired my job, and I talk to people about firing your jobs, but jobs train you to get to know yourself, in the process that you go through developmentally during a job lets you know the process of life that you will need to continue to follow. On a job, you have somebody that trains you. On a job, you learn the rules to be able to stay in this organization, to continue to get paid this certain amount of money. On a job, you have a manager. On a job, there is a structure, right? There is branding, there's marketing, there's customer service. There's all of these different things. You can literally go, and any job in the world is on training, is on a job training that teaches you about life. But if you don't go into that situation with brand new eyes and you looking at it like, another day I gotta be here. So you're dragging yourself there, and you're stressing yourself the whole entire time you're there because you don't want to be there. Instead, you got to look around and say, what can I learn from this? What am I learning about myself? When I'm in dealing with stressful situations, this is how I react. Look at me. Look at the way I reacted. Damn, I can't even control this feeling. Look how that person just made me feel about myself. So you learn emotional intelligence if you're that type of person that's going for that type of training, right? But then it also lets you know, like, what would I need to do to build up a job, like to build a business like this? Because every job you get on is a business. So now you're saying that, damn, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur, not just because you have a passion for a hobby, right? You got to look at the business and say, am I willing to do this? If you're willing to fire this job, are you willing to build infrastructure like the place that you're at? Are you willing to deal with people like you that don't even want to be on the job? They don't consider it to be their passion. Because this is what people who build businesses have to deal with. They have to deal with people who look at the job like it's a death sentence. And these people started their dream. They didn't do it to sentence you to, you know, an emotional hell. They did it to follow their dream and pursue the passion towards wealth and opportunity and ideas. Right? So when you get it, you have to say, well, how can I do this? So I'm going to learn how to do this. You have to be inquisitive. You have to ask questions, because you're training yourself for your own dream. Just think about that. You're training yourself for your own dream. Right? So you don't, like, when I fired my job, I was working at Prada. I was making 6 figures a year. And I fired them, and I learned so much from them. I learned branding, I learned marketing, I learned sales, right? I learned clienteling, right? I learned visual product representation, right? I learned how to manage a store. I learned how to set it up. I learned so many. I took everything that I could learn from them. I learned Mandarin. I was in there, ni hao ma, ni xiao yong song ma, nigga yensa, nigga how kan. I'm in there speaking different languages, right? So when I fired them, I took that training and I took that skill set and I poured it into all of the things that I wanted to do outside of the job, right? Because I looked at it and said, damn, I can't want to start a business, but then I don't want to work. That's not the right attitude. You have to have the spirit of work if you want to be anybody that builds up something that's commendable, right? So when you on a job, you can't really dislike the job, because You're disliking your own work ethic. You're disliking your own learning process. And this is my maturation towards just the process of when you're going to get jobs and when you get in training. Like, I learned so much because I realized, like, in order for me to maximize, no, nigga hakan means that is good. You know, so they say nigga and jigga, right? It means this and that, right? So, you know, I first thought, when I first heard somebody say, nigga, I thought they was calling me a nigga too for a second. I said, wait a minute, whoa, what's going on? I said, y'all is bold. You just gonna sit there in front of me? But I had to learn. It was like, no, they not calling you a jigger, a nigga. They saying this and that. So they was pointing to different things, right? But what I realized is that in order for me to maximize what I wanted out that job, I had to learn. So I started studying Mandarin. I started studying sales. I started studying, you know, visualization and so many different things, because a job will give you a position, but they're not going to prepare you for the next one. They can't give you the vision. They can't give you the dream, right? They're not going to always give you the skill sets on how to maximize your opportunity there. That has to be in your own mind, right? And so it's the same thing. If you take those qualities you learn as a worker, now you know how to be a boss, because you're first learning how to follow, then you're learning how to lead, right? So the process is not an easy process. And this is me going through my, you know, beginning of the year thoughts, right? Of cycling through the necessities of who I need to become in order to get to where I want to be, right? Because you realize there's so many different things that last year, structurally, I didn't set up for my business. But when I worked a job, they had all that structure set up. So if I'd have just asked the right questions, I could have got that training, and then I could have applied it to my business in the beginning rather than later, right? Because you can't maximize without systems and structure, right? So this year, it's all about systems and structure, right? Like, one of the things that we're going to heavily apply into our business is AI, right? We're going to go through a whole rebranding process. And this is why some people don't know how to go through this, right? And I'm going to do a brand challenge, right, this year, right? I'm doing it in the BWO, and I'm gonna be doing it open to the public as well. But in the BWO, we're gonna go through a brand challenge, creating your personal brand and creating your brand for your products and things of that nature. Because most people don't know how to create a very strong brand. And without a strong brand, your business does not have a future. Your business can have a moment with marketing. You can get sales, but without branding, your business does not have a future. It's like a show, right, that doesn't have a channel, right? You need a place where people can come back to consistently, that people know about. It's like HBO is a brand, but, you know, on that network, there are shows. So even if that show is not popping, because the shows are marketing for the network, they're marketing for the brand. But even if that show is not popping and there's nothing to watch, you can still go back to the brand, and there's more products for you to engage in. There's more things for you to stream, right? And that's why, so no show is bigger than the brand. No marketing is bigger than the brand. Your brand has to be something that people come back to, right? So you have to be able to create a brand, but you have to know how to create a brand. What are the archetypes of a brand? What type of brand are you creating? What type of people are you going for? How are you going to make it memorable? What are the things that stick out, right? What are the things that create, you know, being able to think ahead? What are the things that create, you know, space between you and the competitors, right? And so if you don't get into the brand knowledge of it and how to create a brand, you're always just going to be doing marketing, right? You're always just going to be doing marketing. And marketing is one of the most #1 things important for a business and for a brand, but a brand is the mainstay. It's why people will continue to come back to you, right? That's why people will continue to come back, because of your brand. Right? I had some people say some shit about me on the internet, but then I looked at the comments, and because of my brand, I had a lot of people, without me saying a thing, I ain't even give a breakdown on nothing, and without me saying a thing, my brand is so trustable and strong that you had people defending me in the comments. So you have to have such a strong brand that the people know you, because your brand is your consistency, it's your reputation. So what is that about your product? So let's say if one person has a bad experience with your business, right? But your brand is going to protect you, because they're going to say, well, that's not the brand, though. That you may have had a bad experience, but I had a good experience. Well, I don't think that's them. Why? Because that's a good brand over there. No, you must have had that wrong, right? You have to have a good brand. there are certain brands, Chipotle, a few years ago, they had a situation where there was like E. coli in the food. But they fixed it, and their brand was so strong that they could go through that little bout. They can go through that little issue. You dig? They can go through that little issue. So you have to make sure that, like, I posted the video yesterday. That video was from 5 years ago. That was some people's first introduction to my brand. So there was somebody that was like, who was 19 Keys before 2020? And somebody was like, bro, just because you just found out about a person, that doesn't mean when they just popped up. That doesn't mean that they weren't consistent before you, because they had a brand before you knew. So that's like somebody saying, you know, if they just finding out about Apple, and they like, and you know, they have a bad experience with Apple, or somebody says something bad about them, they like, no man, I've been having these products. You just got hip to it, but I've been on Apple. I've been using this Apple, you understand me, for a long time. Like, what is you talking about? So learning how to build up a brand reputation, a presence, the archetype, how to set it up, learning the psychology of branding, the science of branding, the neuroscience. There's actually a lot of things that go deeply into it, right? My brand is solid. It can handle a few hits. It can handle some scrapes. It can handle nuclear war. America has a brand that's so strong that people believe in it consistently with patriotism. America probably has the greatest branding quality that was built out of any country on the planet Earth in history, and besides Egypt. So how can you have your brand like Egypt, right? Egypt was known to have slaves, but they said, nope, the brand of slavery that Egypt had was better than everybody else's slavery. They said they took care of them, so it wasn't the same. So, you know, and that's like an extreme example, but you have to be consistent, right? So I'm gonna give y'all my red shirt branding theory, because marketing becomes brand, right? Somebody said, how do I know all this? I studied, and I've been working for the last 10 years on my own. So I put in way more than 10,000 hours. Like, you gotta, like, there's a thing about, there's a lot of people with followers on social media, but not everybody has impact. Not everybody's influential. Not everybody's intellectual. Like, but I've been studying this for the last 10 years consistently. I went to school, but I didn't finish it. But when I did go, I was into marketing, right? And I used to never study for the test for the most part, but I used to get it right because marketing came naturally to me. I'm a savant when it comes to marketing and branding. You understand me? Yeah, DP Valentine, no, I got a book out that I don't even push out to the public. I usually only give to the students. It's called 19 Seeds of Content. So I wrote a whole book about this, and I followed my own processes, my own systems. I'm not going to be, before I got on social media, I studied it first. I don't like getting into things that I don't study first, right? And so some people want to jump into things because they see somebody else good at it. Like I said, go back to the beginning of this talk, you don't know their process. So you say, oh, I want to create a brand like this, but do you want to study like that person that created that brand? Do you want to go through the iterations of failure, right, and success in order to get to that point? Because most people, they quit at failure. They don't get to that point where they got to retry, they got to rebuild, they got to rebuild, retry, rebuild. They go through the scientific method, you understand me, of learning, of putting out a hypothesis and testing that theory and then retesting it until you get the results that you want. Right? So this is the process of life. You have to test and retest with life. You can't just jump in and be like, yo, that person has success, so I want it. No, you have to want what that person did to get that success, not what they have from what they did. It's a completely different type of life. But there's way too many people, they just want the result, but they do not want to develop themselves to the person that can get the results. And that's why I said this year, you know, when you're looking at what you have from your bank account, look at your brand, look at your marketing, look at your sales, right? Look at your relationships, look at your network. Think about your emotional intelligence right now, your own mindset, the things you know, things you don't know. That's from everything you did last year. That's the sum accumulation of 365 days of work or not work. Shout out to Neo in the building. So like, when you think about it, like, do you know credit? Do you know how to set up the life insurance, right? Do you know how to set up your business? Do you know the marketing and the branding strategies? Do you know how to set up the systems and the funnels? Do you know your brand archetypes? Do you know how to create your business plan? Do you know how to use the AI? Do you know how to implement blockchain in your stuff? You don't know none of these things, right? So if there's something that you're missing, it's because you didn't spend one of your days last year learning it. You weren't willing to sacrifice one of those dates, right, that you went on, one of those concerts you went to, one of those clubs you went to, right? One of those Netflix and chill sessions that you had, one of the smoke sessions that you had, one of those days you just got high, you feel me, or you just got drunk and you did nothing, or somebody invited you out to bowling, somebody invited you out, you know, somebody wanted to take you out and fly you out on a trip. You didn't sacrifice one of those days to develop yourself in the area, so now you're missing that right now. So now you don't have it. So that idea is that process of building your future self is based on what your past self done.